During the darkest days of World War II, the US military was facing a deadly problem. Their bomber planes were getting shot to pieces over enemy territory, and too many weren't making it back home. They needed to add armor to protect them, but armor is heavy. Too much, and the planes would be too slow and burn too much fuel. Too little, and they'd be vulnerable. So, they meticulously studied the planes that did make it back to base. They mapped out every single bullet hole and found clear patterns. The wings, the main body, and the tail gunner's area were constantly riddled with damage. The logical conclusion seemed obvious. Reinforce those areas. It was simple, data-driven, and completely wrong. And if a brilliant statistician hadn't intervened, this logical mistake could have cost countless more lives. This horizontal puzzle is the perfect illustration of a powerful and incredibly common cognitive bias known as survivorship bias. It is the mental error of focusing only on the people or things that survived, a process while completely overlooking those that didn't, simply because they aren't visible. We see the winners, the successes, and the survivors, and we draw conclusions from them, forgetting that the failures, the planes that never came back, the businesses that went bankrupt, the athletes that never made the team, often hold the most important lessons. Today, we're going to solve that World War II puzzle, uncover the psychology behind why our brains are so easily fooled by success stories, and explore how this single bias explains everything from bad business advice to why we think they don't make them like they used to. The US military brought their bullet hole data to a special team of mathematicians and statisticians at Columbia University. They laid out the diagrams showing where the returning planes were most damaged and asked a simple question: where should we put the armor? The military officials argued for reinforcing the wings, the fuselage, the spots that were clearly being hit the most. But one statistician, a quiet man named Abraham Wald, looked at the same data and saw something completely different. He saw a deadly, invisible pattern. Wald's genius was in asking the right question. He didn't ask where are the bullet holes, he asked where are the bullet holes missing. He realized the data they were looking at was profoundly biased. They were only analyzing the survivors. The bullet holes on these returning planes weren't showing the aircraft's weaknesses, they were showing its strengths. A plane could get shot in the wing, the tail, or the main body and still have a chance of flying home. The truly critical areas, Wald argued, were the places where the returning planes had no holes: the cockpit, the fuel system, the engines. Planes hit in those spots weren't making it back to be studied. Their data was at the bottom of the ocean or scattered across enemy territory. The military had been focused on the loud, visible evidence of the survivors. Wald taught them to listen to the silence of the failures. They reinforced the engines and the cockpit, and countless lives were saved. The missing bullet holes told the real story. So why do we all make this mistake? Why do our brains naturally focus on the winners? The primary reason is simple: visibility. Success stories are everywhere. Billionaire entrepreneurs are on the covers of magazines. Winning athletes are on TV. We hear their stories, their advice, and their secrets. The failures, on the other hand, are silent. The millions of startups that went bankrupt don't write best-selling books. The thousands of aspiring actors who went home don't get celebrated in interviews. Our brains use what's called the availability heuristic. We make judgments based on the information that comes to mind most easily. Since success stories are readily available and failures are hidden, we drastically overestimate the odds of success and draw flawed conclusions about how to achieve it. We love a good narrative. A story about a college dropout who became a billionaire is inspiring and simple. A statistical analysis of the 99% of college dropouts who did not become billionaires is messy, complicated, and frankly, a bit of a downer. So, we listen to the survivor and ignore the graveyard of silent failures. Once you understand the missing bullet holes, you start to see this bias everywhere, often leading to what looks like modern stupidity. Business and entrepreneurship. This is the biggest one. We're told, follow your passion. Steve Jobs and Bill Gates dropped out of college, so you can too. This is terrible advice. We are looking at the two planes that made it back with their engines on fire, ignoring the vast, silent graveyards of millions of people who dropped out of college and did not become billionaires. The advice ignores the role of timing, luck, privilege, and the thousands of unseen failures. They don't make them like they used to. You've heard someone say this, probably about cars or architecture. We look at a beautifully preserved 1960s Ford Mustang and think, wow, cars were built to last back then. We don't see the millions of other cars from that era that rusted into oblivion and were sent to the junkyard. The only ones left for us to see are the ones that, for one reason or another, survived. Finance and investing. We see headlines about someone who became a millionaire by investing their life savings into a meme stock or a cryptocurrency. Their story gets amplified across social media, inspiring others to do the same. What we don't see are the thousands of people who tried the exact same strategy and lost everything. The financial news cycle is almost a perfect engine for survivorship bias. Fitness and diets. We see the after photo of someone who lost 100 pounds on a radical new diet, but we don't see the data on the 95% of people for whom the diet was unsustainable or didn't work. We're making health decisions based on the single survivor, not the entire study group. So how do we train our brains to be like Abraham Wald? How do we see the full picture? First, actively seek out the graveyard. Don't just read the success stories. For every book you read titled How I Built My Empire, find 3 blog posts titled Here's Why My Startup Failed. The failures contain far more practical lessons about what to avoid. Learning from others' mistakes is one of the most efficient ways to learn. Second, question the narrative of success. When you hear a simple, clean success story, get skeptical. Ask questions. What am I not seeing? How many other people tried this exact same thing and failed? Was it skill, or was it luck, privilege, and timing? Be a detective for the missing data. Don't just look at the winners, look at the entire field of competitors. Third, conduct a pre-mortem. This is a powerful technique used in business. Before you start a big project, imagine it's a year from now and it has failed spectacularly. Get your team together and brainstorm all the reasons why it failed. This forces you to consider the silent risks, the missing bullet holes, before they have a chance to take you down. You're creating your own graveyard of possibilities to learn from them in advance. From the battlefields of World War II to the boardrooms of today, survivorship bias is a constant trap. It makes us glorify the winners, copy their habits without context, and ignore the crucial lessons hidden in the failures. The real secret isn't in studying the bullet holes you can see, it's in developing the wisdom to look for the ones you can't. The most important data is often the data that's gone missing. If this deep dive into our mental blind spots helped you see the world a little differently, a like on the video would be incredible. And make sure to subscribe to Your Biased Brain for more explorations of the mind. Now, I want to hear from you. Let me know in the comments, what's the best example of survivorship bias you've ever seen in the real world? Thanks for watching.